How to get out of a timeshare. Welcome back. My name is AlexBeltran. I talk real estate. A couple months back, I had to drive back to Los Angeles to pick up a couple of legal documents. And while driving there, I had to pass by Las Vegas. So of course I stopped. I can't pass up the Bazaar by Jose Andre, Giordano's Pizza, or, the Bacchanal. And of course I have to do a little bit of degenerate gambling. Don't judge me. We all have our vices. Anyway, when I walked into one of the casinos, I couldn't help but to see that there were these people behind a desk with zero signage, zero marketing behind it, and they were approaching different idiots. So of course they came up to me, asking me if I'd like to sit through some type of presentation in exchange for tickets to Absinthe, which a quick Google search, you realize that tickets to Absinthe, it's about a $500 value. I think to myself, that is cake. I used to pretend paying attention for 8 hours during high school. How hard could this be? And that is where they get you, by giving you tickets to some type of great show or in exchange for some fine dining experience. Now look, I may be an idiot, but I'm not gullible. I know for a fact that nothing in life is really free. But if you're forward and ask them what this is all about, they try to remain as vague as humanly possible. Of course, I'm a businessman with a little bit of sales experience, so I always ask indirect questions to get to the answers that I really want. After all, I had a few minutes to kill because we had just come out of the Bacchanal. A really good buffet. I highly recommend it. One of the questions that I asked was, what are the closing percentages for this product that you're offering? And of course, the salesperson couldn't help but to brag and said, we close 40% of the people that we bring through this system. What? 40%? Off of a cold open? Okay, look, a lot of you might not be in sales, but a 40% closure rate at a cold open, that's like a hole-in-one, slam dunk, hat trick, whatever version of championship wins, impossible feats that you can think of rolled into one. 40% is really, really high. But of course I kept that level of sales excitement to myself and I was like, wow, 40%, that seems pretty low. So what's your commission on that? And the guy, once again, couldn't help himself and he said, well, it depends on what timeshare I sell them on. And I was like, oh, so you're selling timeshares? And the guy's like, yeah. I wasn't supposed to tell you that. Mind you, I already knew what was going on. I just like to see how other people play the game. The fact that these timeshares have to resort to this deceptive bait and switch tactic tells you literally everything that you need to know about the timeshare business as a whole. But of course, I'm a real estate guy and curiosity got the best of me. Even if it's a real estate market that I don't necessarily agree with, I like to take a deep dive into the subject because there's always something to learn from it. With timeshares, the only thing I learned was how to get out of them as soon as humanly possible. Now, to be fair, while I was doing research into the timeshares, I realized that there are some big names that deal with timeshare companies, one of which I personally use all the time, Hilton. It just so happens that they call their timeshare Hilton Grand Vacation Club. It's not a timeshare, it's a club. Oh, it just goes to show you that with enough marketing, anybody can convince you that a shit sandwich is actually good for you. When will we learn? Anyway, I will admit that timeshares aren't as scammy as they used to be, which is really saying something because they're very scammy now. While I was doing research on timeshares, I actually remembered that when I was younger, one of my uncles bought a timeshare and we couldn't stop ridiculing him. My family, to this day, still hasn't stopped clowning on him. Anytime he wants to talk about anything serious or, something like politics or anything going on in the zeitgeist, we simply remind him that he bought timeshares. And all of his points are immediately invalidated. Kind of cruel, but still funny. So my dad was a real estate broker back in the day, and for some odd reason, a lot of people were actually buying timeshares at the time. I don't know what the marketing was behind it. I was too young for it at the time. But I remember they would come up to him and almost confess like they're confessing to a crime that they bought a timeshare or something like that. And the number one thing that they always wanted to know was, how do I get out of this? Well, In this video, we're going to talk about just that, how to get out of a timeshare. Because when Hilton, who is a legitimate company, has an entire webpage dedicated to third-party timeshare exit scams, you know there's a problem. Yeah, I mean, I guess tell the original scammer how this other scammer is scamming you so that the original scammer knows more tricks of the trade. Makes sense in the timeshare world. Now go on ahead, go through the entire website, and all you get are vague answers. When a company tries this hard to keep pertinent information from you, run away. Run very far away, even if it is Hilton. Now, I'm not saying that there is zero place in this world for timeshares. I personally know of like 3 people that love their timeshares. However, they use theirs as like destinations for their board meetings, and they only invest in like the most expensive timeshares possible. They don't really go for, how can I put this? Retail timeshares. The way they say is poor people timeshares. I'm going with retail timeshares. But it really seems to be the only way that I've seen people talk about timeshares in a positive light when they're talking about more of the higher end timeshares. Of course, once you're paying for these higher end properties, chances are they're having an attorney look through the entire contract to make sure that the contract is favorable for them, which is something that retail timeshare people do not do. They just sign on the dotted line. At least that's what it seems like to me, which is a very bad thing. Always do your due diligence. Anyway, there are a multitude of different types of timeshares, so really writing sort of a blanket statement on how to get out of a timeshare isn't really something that I'm comfortable with. I know that there are like these third-party exit companies. They seem to all be pretty scammy. I'm pretty sure that there's 1 or 2 that are legitimate. However, even if I knew which ones those were, I personally would not feel comfortable suggesting them to anyone, because that is a very, very murky market that I don't want anything to do with. Timeshares, man, how is this stuff legal? All right, so personally, if for some reason I somehow, through a series of unfortunate events, managed to sign up for a timeshare, I would literally just pay whatever penalties are levied on me and walk away and consider it an expensive lesson in what not to do next time around. I mean, there are several legal avenues that I'm sure you can take. There are plenty of lawyers out there. All you have to do is type in timeshare lawyer and enter your city, and I'm pretty sure you can find yourself a lawyer to talk about what you can do. However, going through like the legal process and another headache, not worth it for me. Is it worth it for you? I don't know. You decide. I personally would just want to get over this as quickly as humanly possible and just walk away. Anyway, here's the part that everyone wants to know. What is the best way to get out of a timeshare? It is to never get involved in one in the first place. Yep, I said it. Or at the very least, like I said earlier, have a lawyer overlook all of these contracts and do your due diligence. I said what I said. Anyway, I will catch you guys next time. Peace. Shh.